And we're live and back for another week. And
Hello?
well, I didn't want to miss Mike's face there, so we'll make sure that was the opening shot. Apologies to anyone with children who are now cowering behind the sofa, but you know, had to be done.
It's out of the way.
Yeah, we've got a packed panel today. Although we are missing a couple.
The
Gina.
storyteller.
Gina had a mishap earlier today and it is now feeling sorry for herself in the audience, so our best wishes to Gina, and that's not a good enough excuse. And as for that whizzer bloke, where is he? I don't know. Bill, say hello.
Hey, hello, how are you?
Good, good. How's your week been? What have you been up to?
I've been working on doing some audits, which lately has involved trying to understand why there are so many internal redirects on websites I'm working on. You know, a site that's built and all the links, all the pages are connected by 302 redirects, and you know they're complaining about having no traffic, but it would make sense that they don't. Other than that, I'm preparing a presentation to give in front of a big meetup crowd at a downtown San Diego hotel next
This is
week.
with Barbara, yeah?
Yes.
Yes.
And we're talking about, Barbara wrote a search engine land article that came out a couple weeks ago on entity metrics at Google and how they were changing around the way they were deciding what to show on a results page. It's no longer just the list of results ordered by things like PageRank or information retrieval. It's using other types of metrics like notability or fame or something like that. So if somebody searches for Tom Hanks, they might show a list of all the movies he's performed in order of how many awards they've each won. Which is, you know, it's different than PageRank in significant ways. Just the idea that these things might be ranked differently. You do a search for an actor or actress like that, and you often see a list of other people who people search for when they search for that person, or other people who performed in some of the same movies. So they're talking about things like related entities, which is another way to show off results that is different than a PageRank result. So we're going to be talking about those types of metrics and what they may mean for the future. Barbara did come across a patent where Google talks about a metric that, based on site quality, that may determine whether or not certain sites that are advertising get buy now buttons in search results. And
that's one of the things. You know, it's great that they're putting more attention into entities, and you know, it helps them split out, especially when, you know, somebody searches for Jaguar. Do they mean the car? Do they mean the big cat? Do they mean a sports team? You know, there's so many different things it could be. It helps them segregate. It helps them also kind of think of some of the most notorious uses.
Right.
But you still know some of those results.
Disambiguate.
Yeah, but what worries me is eBay are still going to be there trying to sell you a Jaguar somewhere in those results because they've broad matched every keyword going. I found myself for sale again on eBay earlier today, and I thought that had gone away 8 years ago.
I remember searching back in the days when Google and Alta Vista were still struggling and fighting it out. And I did a search on Alta Vista for the Dalai Lama, and there he was in the paid results. I could get 2 for the price of 1.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, absolutely. And, buy books on whatever from Barnes and Noble. And I was a bit saddened to see that in Google today, that eBay are still broad matching any terms. That's sad. I thought we'd really got away from that.
That's authority, though.
Yep. Yep. So, Terry, say hello and tell us what you've been up to this week.
Oh, I fooled them for another week and just continued doing what I have been, working on a site and trying to build a community, getting that together in mind, Got to get your head together first to know what you're going to do with the community once people start coming. Got to have a plan for that, so that's kind of where I'm at.
What's the tactic you're using? Because obviously building a community is one of those classic things that people struggle with as a chicken and egg situation. If you haven't got the people, there's nothing to make other people want to stick there. But how do you start a community with people?
Well, we already do have a start in that we have a Google Plus page that has a couple hundred people, which is pretty good for a business. People don't, it's a lot harder on Google Plus to get your business followed, right? Not like Twitter where, you can do it however you want. Google, it was more you had to convince people to do it. So I'm working on that. It's mainly, too, that I believe these communities should be both online and offline, kind of like what Bill's talking about. And that's what I'm putting together now is where I would have a hangout. I might invite people to Toronto to speak and make, have a few things going on at the same time. So can kill.
I was in a meetup last week that sort of showed that in action, and a couple of our panelists were also in that same meetup. John Moore and Marilyn Moore, his wife, put on a meetup at a local chamber of commerce, and it was on web technologies for the small business.
Yeah.
And the topic of the meetup was your website as a business asset. And it was interesting sitting in the audience for that one and participating, leaving a few comments with our board of panelists who were global. It was nice having people from all over the place in one room, and setting it up was a little bit tricky, but possible. An extra camera to set up the projector in the back of the room so that we could watch all the people who were invited as guests in the hangout. That was nice.
Yeah,
Bill,
Actually, the company that I'm working with on this is a business center, and if it works there, we're going to kind of spread it out. There's 500 in the network or so. So,
Well, John told me John told me he'd share his some schematics with me on how his setup worked between the two different computers he was using for the meetup and the hangout. And if you asked him, I would imagine he might share that with you too.
Oh, I'm sure John would if I asked him nicely. But there's also, since it's a business center, in some of them they'll have teleconferencing already set up, right? That's one of the services they provide. So that's what I'm kind of getting a better feel for.
Mm-hmm.
Bill, what was the atmosphere like in the room at that hangout?
It probably could have been more talkative. I think the way the room was set up was more like a high school classroom. It was or what you see in most conferences. where they're not set up to make it easy for individuals to engage with each other.
That's interesting. I think it would have been better if people like sat in a circle around the panelists.
Maybe. And the SEO meetup in Raleigh tried things like that, and they were really popular. But having people sit in a way that engages them with other people, has them look at other people while they're talking to them, instead of straight ahead while sitting at a desk, really can make a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think sometimes going to a setup which is more like a web conference, a meeting room setup with you're around the table with the screen at one end, having a place microphone in the center, encourages more conversation. If you need to have more people than will fit around one table, have a couple of tables set up that way. I think that can sometimes be the best way to get the most engagement. But that said, not every small business really wants to be out there. So I think it's a great start. I'd love to see more of it. Like I say, and I've said a few times, I would love to see more chambers of commerce all using Google Plus to network together and share across several of those chambers at the same time.
So how do you guys convince the local community to take a look at Google Plus and embrace it? My personal challenge is they feel like everyone's on Facebook and Twitter, and that's where they want to be because they have limited time. And I can tell them my story, which is rich, but I don't know if they see that as something that's possible.
I think in some ways John has done the heavy lifting, because you can use John's example already. Look, here's a chamber doing this. Here's what it's doing for them.
Mm-hmm. When I was in Virginia, Constant Contact was reaching out to people and trying to hold seminars where they talked about the value of social networking to people and gave presentations on it. And they're involved in helping people set up web presences these days. They used to be a lot more involved in setting up newsletters, but they've made some purchases and they've added a bunch of different technologies. They're using
probably because newsletters, nobody reads them anymore.
Yeah.
There's some I still read religiously.
Oh, yeah.
I tell you who's done one very recently that I've been really enjoying is Ray, Sugar Ray. Ray Dolan has just started doing her Sound Bites one, which is an ultra short newsletter. I read it every single time. Every single time it's great. She's doing a really good job on that. She's just made it more concise, more to the point.
Yeah, I think.
Who is that?
Oh, go ahead. I really could use an energy drink. Does anybody have any suggestions? Okay, just checking. The problem with those newsletters that I get they are boring. They are just bad. I think people don't read them, which is absolutely correct because they're no good. So many people write generic just junk that if somebody would put some thought process into it, I think they'd do better. Hey, I want to welcome my cousin David, who is just popped into here. David and I found out we very well may be related like last week, and it was shocking. And as I understand it, it's devastated his entire family to know that might be possible.
You bring the whole line down.
I know. You're not the first one to say that, and we will continue to do so. It's what we do. But
we might actually be fifth cousins, which is
yes. 3 times removed.
No removed, just fifth cousin. Fifth cousin.
Well, I think we kind of look alike.
How are you guys?
We might actually share the same great-great-grandparents. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Strangely enough.
So, where are newsletters going wrong? I mean, to me, it's the classic thing. they're writing what they want to say instead of what their audience wants to read. Which, you know, of course that's not going to work. You've got to provide people the information they want, not the information you want.
I'm guilty of it. I send out the crappiest newsletters there are.
Oh no, I've unsubscribed from yours.
Mine are far worse.
Hey, but I mean, I sent out a crappy one the other day, and actually I was kind of surprised in the first 10 minutes I had 2 inquiries for proposals. So it worked. I just get the worst open rate possible. My click-through rate sucks, but apparently it spoke to 2 people for 2 companies, and it worked. So, yeah, I mean, I guess it all depends on what metrics you're measuring it by. I mean, open rates, click-through rates, or actually inquiries for business. I don't know. I mean, it's... Yeah, I can't answer that question.
Which, it all comes down, doesn't it, to the brand you're building and the risks you want to take. There's a lot of people who, yeah, do you know what? Yeah, okay, it's got a 2% conversion rate. That's great. I worry long term. Look, if it's only 2% is converting, you can probably guarantee it's pissing off 4%. You're building up people who hate you twice as fast as you're building up customers, and in 2 years' time, that's going to start to become a reputation problem. In 4 years' time, it's becoming a big problem. But, on the other hand, short term, it can work great. Balance. Who's ringing? Come on.
Just ignore it, I do.
Yeah. So
2 rings means it's a business call and not one I'm expecting.
right. So you don't believe in serendipity when it comes to business. Hey, I'm not expecting it. I'm not taking it. Michael,
Right.
he'll take anyone's money.
Usually it's somebody trying to sell me something.
So
You know, I really will.
Windows or your clean the pipes in your furnace. And I live in a rented place.
yeah, I'm still getting people trying to, you know, oh, this is about your payment protection insurance. No, that was sold years ago. You know, that ship sailed.
I worked in a bucket shop that sold that stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, I still get calls on that. And do you know what? That's okay, because the number I've put out publicly is my mobile number. If bad companies want to be wasting that kind of money, I let them. As soon as I open the phone, hear what it is, I put the phone down, never hang up, let them use as much money as possible. Just put the phone down while they go through their menu. Don't let them move quickly on to the next customer to spam the next guy. Make them take their time.
That's a great tactic. I like it.
Next time one of those folks who say they're from Google calls me, I'm going to try that on them.
Yeah, any unsolicited call, if it doesn't delight you in the first 5 seconds, don't get rid of them as quickly as possible. Keep them on the line as long as possible, because that's what makes the numbers game not work for them. When they can make 100 calls a day and get 2 sales, the company will keep employing them to make 100 calls a day and make 2 sales. But if they can only make 50 because we all take twice as long and it only makes 1 sale, that may be the point at which that company can't afford to do it anymore.
Yeah, they just hire someone else who does get to. Being there, I used to work for them.
Oh yeah, yeah. But there comes a point at which, you know, the one who can get it is the one who's better at it. Doesn't waste your time, you know, and is targeting better.
Yeah. The smart people hang up realizing and take you off the list as well. That's the thing. I only tell them once, I'm not interested, please remove me. After that, they're open to any abuse I may care to.
You have to shorten that phrase, because their trick now is to hang up the phone before you can utter the words, remove me from your calling list.
Yeah.
That's their new trick. As soon as they realize it, they'll hang up before you get to say that, so you're still on their calling list.
Yeah.
Pisses me off.
You have to start with do not call again.
Yes.
Yeah, if you just say do not call, then it goes under a different category. You have to say take me off your list.
Yeah, but see, if you're a business, most people don't know this. If you're a business, doesn't matter if you're on the do not call list.
Right.
You'll call.
Of
So
course.
if you're running a business from your home, you're, you know.
It slowed it for a little while everyone wondered whether it was going to have teeth, and then they worked out it didn't, and so it's back to square one. You know, do not call's great, isn't it? But, you know, how many companies have been... I think there's 2 companies in the world have been really prosecuted for it. There's just not enough fear of it.
You know, I was just talking to... Oh, I'm sorry. I was just speaking to somebody yesterday, I think, about marketing and sales, oddly enough. And you know, what came about was like there's no sales or marketing tactic or strategy that is one piece. And these telemarketing firms that are calling you are using one-piece tactics, meaning you don't know who they are, they haven't introduced themselves, they've built a relationship, and they decide just to call you. And that is so 1995. And having been a professional telemarketer in 1984, I have a great deal of sympathy for them. But the reality is when we do it, or when we've done it in the past, you know, we'd do the right list, we'd send out an invitation via email, we'd only call the people who opened the invitation. So when we called, you know, we had a reason and at least a little tiny piece of relationship built. But any company that's, you know, employing telemarketers to simply really cold call, they're in trouble. That's just not going to work anymore. So,
I saw a company who'd decided that, you know, their product was quite complex. It needed to be explained in detail. How do you get to do that? And what they decided was, yeah, cold calling was going to have to be a part of their strategy. But what they did was they created a TV campaign first that was interesting, but it didn't explain itself, and it left a question on people's minds. So then when somebody phoned up from this company, you're only interested in, finally I can find out what the hell they do, opened the conversation up.
Yes,
said,
like maybe a good energy drink company would do something like that. I don't know. Do we know of any good energy drink companies?
I don't know. There seem to be some flights of fantasy that way, but I really don't think anybody's really caught that one yet.
Sorry. But I do want to thank Kristin for calling me the hilarious businessman in the introduction, because that doesn't put any pressure on anyone at all. Because my business is a joke, I understand it, but I'm not sure what that meant.
Yeah, absolutely. So, let me see. Bill, we've done two. Kristin, what have you been up to this week? And say hello.
Saving the internet from all the people on it that are wrong. A lot of that.
Yeah, you seem to have been pretty energized about that, really.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been amazed at her energy.
Me too. She seems to be 24/7 out there campaigning, being wonderful. So, you know, how do you do it, Kristin? What gives you these incredible energy levels? And 6 kids.
To boot, I know.
I know.
Just having the right ingredients, I guess.
That must be it. Yeah. Well, you know, if there's ever some kind of solution that can offer people this kind of energy, let us know. Mary.
I just might.
Mary, what have you been up to this week?
I'm starting a new website for a client, which is really fun and exciting. Trying to balance what the client wants, design, and performance, which is always tricky. So I'm trying to do some research up front. Need to find a new hosting provider. That's a painful process. If anybody has ideas, I'd love to hear it. And getting ready for presentation for next week.
Cool. So, what's kind of the core of the pain point? What's been causing it to be more of a pain than expected?
You know, I think, well, it's for a client. So I think it's just, I really want to recommend something that's going to work. And I've been with a few hosting providers, and when you start out with that relationship, it's always great, and then it can really go sour like 6 months or a year down the line, and trying to balance, like, I really want to find something that's secure and performs well and is economical. And then, it just really seems to be challenging to find those things that's sustainable.
Yeah.
I would recommend GoDaddy.
I hope that was a joke.
Yes, it was a joke. I meant
I
Yahoo.
like GoDaddy too. They're in Phoenix. Gotta go for the local biz, right?
Do you know, I don't have a problem with GoDaddy. I use them for a couple of sites, the same as I do with other. I like to keep an eye on what's out there, and especially what's the average Joe using. So, I've got one of the big domain registrars over here, and GoDaddy over there, and a couple of others as well, and use them. And for the smaller sites, I'm not having any problems with them. Admittedly, I'm not running a big database-driven site on massively overworked servers, but for a static site, I've had no problems whatsoever. Their customer service has been first class. Only the other day they rang me up because the domain was about to expire the hosting plan was about to expire. The domain is for another couple of years, and they said, would you like us to put it in line so they all expire at the same time? So it's one call to fix the lot. Great idea. They said, you don't seem to be using all of the options on this. We notice you've got a secure certificate. We notice that you've got a dedicated IP, and it doesn't seem like you're using it. Can we have a look at what we could save you by downgrading the plan? Asking me to spend less. That's brilliant. I think that was wonderful. So I've got no complaints with GoDaddy. As long as you understand.
They're also like rebranding and taking out some of their sexist ad campaign and stuff too.
Yeah, they were purchased, I think, about a year ago or something. They really have changed that.
Someone probably jumped.
Yeah.
I've heard good things about them too. One of my clients had GoDaddy, and I wasn't really happy, but it does seem like they might be turning things around. I have been hearing that things were changing.
Okay, then I wasn't joking.
You're going to jump in. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Or did you just jump off? Oh, no, you're still with us. What are your thoughts about it? About GoDaddy and about hosting providers?
I'm sorry, who are you asking?
David.
Oh, David.
We used to have 2 managed servers at Rackspace that I think combined cost us like $600 for the 2. But between them, we had 50 client websites on one of them, and we had all of our HTTPS ones on another. I think we had 40 IPs, 40 SSL certificates on the second box. So between 2 boxes costing us about $600, $700, we had 60 clients on there. And those things never went down. We were running FreeBSD, and we had, I think, 6 consecutive years of uptime. We had no downtime in 6 years. At that point, we just recently moved everything to Amazon's hosting, just because it's even cheaper. Once you get a handle on how to set up boxes on Amazon, it's incredibly easy and dirt cheap. But you just got to figure out how to do it in the beginning. Like it takes a while to get used to how their billing works and how the installation process goes. But once you're up there, a normal website, literally, let's say a 10,000 sessions a month website probably costs you like $2 a month. Yeah, dirt cheap. But yeah.
I think this is it. You've got to know what kind of use you're going to put something for, and then find a company that deals with that. GoDaddy are a mass provider. If you need very specialized stuff, they're probably not going to be great at it because they're used to doing the mass market. If you need a lot of dedicated processor time, again, their business model is really about hosting thousands of sites rather than a few very intensive ones. So again, it might not be the best fit, although I think these days with the cloud servers, it tends to be a little bit better. But if you're looking for, solid web presence, you want it up a lot of the time, and you want it pretty much to run itself, then I actually think GoDaddy's not a bad idea at all. I don't think it's a bad product.
The one concern, I mean, we recently, one of my clients was on GoDaddy, and the moment we moved him off of GoDaddy onto another hosting provider, the speed of the site, same site on GoDaddy to a different provider, I mean, it increased 20 to 30%. So that's my concern about GoDaddy, is that it is not fast hosting by any stretch of the imagination, especially if your website is database driven. That's where they kill you. If you're hosting a static website on there, you're probably fine. But their database is completely, it's either set up really badly or they're purposely throttling the speed of their database. So that would be my only concern is, look, because it's not just hosting. I mean, it's not just the convenience level or the stability of it, but the actual speed of the site can vary based on your hosting provider.
Right.
And a 20% bump in speed just by moving to a different hosting provider, not touching the code, not optimizing, just hosting provider to hosting provider. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
So I have a friend who's on GoDaddy, and her mobile speed is tanking. She's having a real hard time with it. And I wonder, I don't know, their first byte time looks pretty good. I can't tell whether it's a GoDaddy thing or she just has a bad theme. Could be one or the other, but that's good to know.
Yeah. I certainly don't think that there definitely was a time when GoDaddy had a terrible reputation. It was kind of the McDonald's of hosting providers, which again, when you look at the number of meals McDonald's put out a day, as long as you're very loose in the definition of meals, they're great. But if you're really looking for chef standards, McDonald's is the wrong place to be in the first place, and it's kind of like that. I think GoDaddy are not a bad first stop, but I would suggest, if you've got any serious needs, if you're going to need a database, if you're seriously going to start blogging for your business, then you're going to want a WordPress site. GoDaddy might not, at the moment, be the best option around.
I like it because I can just bury a bunch of black hat spammy junk in there, and it's not that I would ever do that.
Oh, God.
It's harder to find in the GoDaddy database. Okay, once again, I'm joking because Kristin said I was hilarious.
Yeah, she likes me. She's got terrible taste. Don't trust her discernment.
Yeah, someone last week who was in our show was like, I don't know, they said something like, but, like, would you want to be looking at Bill and Ammon? Like, I was like, yeah, actually, I think I've proven that I do.
Yeah.
I think I have good taste.
Hart is suggesting Google Domains and HostGator. Certainly not a bad.
HostGator, their email gets blocked all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but this is it. If you want the website rather than the, if you're not going to be using the email service, HostGator isn't terrible. I'd say it's another one a bit like GoDaddy. Because it was cheap, it got used for a lot of throwaway stuff.
Here's the thing, right, Ammon? The difference between having a quality provider and having crap is about $8 a month. If you can't afford that, I think you got bigger problems than a slower website.
It's, of course, $8 per month per domain, and you got some companies who, of course, have got 30 variants. The 30 times 8 starts to add up every month.
But you may have picked the wrong solution, right? Maybe you should have your own server then.
Yeah.
It's probably paying for itself. These days, Ammon, I went from owning my own servers to going totally on Azure, Microsoft, which is basically Microsoft's version of Amazon. I can now do worldwide distribution, so I can have servers in Hong Kong, North America, all run from one place. Like, can't beat it. Like, and then you look at the costs. it's, well, let's say I had thousands of dollars tied up in servers and bandwidth, 150 a month, 300 a month just for bandwidth and electricity for the air conditioning. Now, same configuration, even the same server, right? $40 a month. Not really paid to own servers anymore. People in the hosting business you're in a marginal business, boys.
Yes, and most of the really successful hosts, the people who make the most are the ones who put a lot of services together. You know, web designer who does some of the marketing included in it, will do your emails for you, and you know, the hosting and domain registration and everything else is all sort of in there. They tend to have the biggest margins. For the hosts themselves, you know, it's a lot tougher these days because it did become a big race.
Oh, I've used every host that's been mentioned here, and that's why I started doing my own. Well, I'm lucky in that my brother's a network administrator, so I don't have to worry about that stuff. And you know, as long as I stay in his good graces, I'm okay. He's over here laughing at me now.
So let's do this as an SEO. John, say hello, and what have you been up to this week? Unmute first. It works better.
Yeah, unmute first. That's why it's a good start. How you doing? I got caught up this morning in the farm. I was literally, well, I put it in the comment tracker. I've been hauling manure. So I've been doing my farming all morning. So I'm now changing gears and getting into the tech thing here. So I didn't want to miss this because I knew a bunch of people were here from the show, and we're going to talk about websites and so hosting, and this is really cool. So that's this is a good topic. My topic.
Yeah.
Our topic.
And of course, David has already jumped in, but David, tell us a bit about your company and how important hosting must be, of course, to your business.
Oh, goodness gracious. You know, it's funny. We used to do a lot more custom CMSs than we do now, custom from that level, which made it so that we had to control our hosting environment. You know, when you are building custom web-based apps, you need to control everything about it. You can't stand when a hosting provider says, "Oh, now we're using PHP version, 6.2.1," and breaks everything. So it kind of required us to have our own hosting environments for so long, which is why we had dedicated servers or managed servers. Nowadays, you know, we got out of that business, thankfully. I mean, it was more hassle than it was worth, even with managed servers. Nowadays, you know, we were talking about SiteGround in the chat. I mean, we've been putting more clients on the SiteGround just because it's easy and it's inexpensive, and it's been really working for us. The ones that we have to custom host are on Amazon's services. And we do a lot of sites on Blogger, so we don't have to worry about hosting at all, which is spectacular. So it's really a mix of, you know, what we do in the projects. But yeah,
You do sites on Blogger, David?
Yep, we do full websites on Blogger, and nobody even knows that they're there, which is the best part about it. And it's fast. I can't believe how fast the hosting is for free on Blogger. It's ridiculously fast.
Yeah.
Plus, that's why I have like 94 million views on my profile. But yeah. That's how I inflate my view count. It's all tied to it.
It's Google. It's got the Google tech going behind it, and they're not slow when it comes to tech.
Nope, not at all. But yeah, and I mean, I don't know. I was talking to you about this the other day. You know, I don't know what happened in the economy recently, but suddenly, man, I don't think I've ever been this busy. And I think at least the last 5 years, I have not been this busy, which is a good thing. I'm not complaining at all, but it's yay busy.
Well, if you can think of anything that I can do to take some of the pressure off, or you know where to get me.
Yeah.
That was GoDaddy who just called me, by the way. It really was. I'll show you the phone. You can't see it. Phone number is 480-505-88. That's GoDaddy. So trying to save me more money.
Damn it!
Or somebody's on the Hangout.
They're doing good social listening. I got to meet so many people at the social shakeup in Atlanta last week, which is awesome. It's funny putting Google people you only met on Google Plus, and actually meeting them in real life was fantastic. Doesn't happen, but yeah. Got to meet Christine DeGraff, Lainey Sullivan. Got to meet Keith and Randy. It's amazing meeting people for the first time in person. But, it was a lot of fun.
I find it odd and uncomfortable.
Especially when they try to give you a hug, you're like, ah.
I don't really know you yet. No.
We don't have that problem, Christian.
It's okay, Mike. We're related, so we'll have to meet each other at the next family reunion.
At the reunion. Well, I was glad because now I've got a place to stay on the East Coast. That's the way it works.
It's okay. I'm still trying to track the lineage back because I swear I'm related to Stefan Hovnanian, even though he's Armenian and I'm Jewish. Somehow we're related.
We're all related. It's just where, right? Yeah. That's the bad news. We're all related.
That's true.
Sounds like someone was rescuing someone, perhaps.
Someone was what?
Rescuing someone. Never mind. I'm getting too political. Never mind. Okay.
So, how was? I mean, you were there, sort of right on the launch of the ebook.
Yeah.
What was the feedback like? I mean, it must have been interesting being at one of those when you've just put out a book. I mean, the book was on the subject matter of social media, and what we realized, this was, at a social media conference. What we realized was that most businesses have no idea how to use social media still. And you go there thinking, okay, you're listening to IBM, you're listening to all these big companies with big budgets, and you're realizing that they're not actually doing social selling because they've given up on it for the most part, and they're using it, but not in a way that a small and medium-sized business would ever be able to do because it doesn't scale. It's not making them money. They're using it more for branding purposes, for managing expectations purposes. So when you go there trying to get results, you realize that they're not getting results, with the exception of NASA. NASA was the coolest company that presented at that conference. They have been doing quite a lot with social media, and of course, it's a good marriage for them because, of course, so much of their stuff is stuff that goes we know that sci-fi is a big interest and space in general. We know they've got some images that nobody in the world has apart from them, so it's a good match.
But even, I mean,
NASA engaged in open data. They're sharing a lot of information that they collect. Those images are like royalty free, right?
Well, that's the thing he was talking about. Like, everyone looks at NASA and says, "Well, of course you're killing it on social media. You've got great content." He was right in saying most people don't know what NASA actually does. They don't know everything that NASA is involved in. So it became more than that. Like their mission really is to broaden everyone's understanding of NASA because that affects their budget. That affects how much money that they get from the federal government to do what they do, and they have this huge social mission that they're trying to put out there. That it was interesting hearing them talk. I don't know if I can summarize it, but it was really interesting. Yeah. A lot of other people, not so much.
Who wasn't interesting, David?
No,
I was actually.
No. I'll tell you. Actually, there were a lot of companies that you realized didn't really know what they were talking about. That social media for them, they were at a social media conference, and while they weren't admitting it, social media to them was a black hole that they were just sinking money into, and they were trying to put a good spin on it. But really and truly, all they were doing was sinking money and not expecting ROI, not even trying for ROI. They were just sinking money. And there were a lot of companies, and you can look at the list. What's up?
That's my kind of client. Shoot me some names. No return on investment, sink money. My profile.
You need to get one of those.
Yeah. Well, join us on Eastern European time. We have Jason. Good to have you with us at last, Jason. How you doing?
Sorry I'm so late, you guys. I'm terribly sorry about that. I really was looking forward to this week, too.
And so were we.
I thought you had done the pain meds or something like that.
Yeah. No, I had a meeting that went long, so, oh well.
Well, you're the master at fire hose, so go for it.
Right.
Fine to hear the story from last week, Jason?
Well, I don't even know where your conversation is now, so I don't know if it's appropriate to the discussion.
It's always appropriate. We
discussion.
You guys you were talking on the show what I wanted to say. You were talking on the show about people that when something to this effect, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it was something to the effect of
you're always wrong.
People that nice people that the moment I chose you as a friend, that was you were talking about when you build companies that build their website for themselves, who they come in and they say, this is what I think I need, this is what I want to have happen, and I think one of the best illustrations of where that goes wrong is early on when I was working with churches and nonprofits. So can I tell you how many churches that I've worked with that they do things like this? They build their website and include things like weekly announcements, forums, calendars, how to prayer lists. Okay, all of these things are really great internally, but the reality is all of that stuff already happens in the building every Sunday. You already know that stuff. You print that on your flyers when you or your bulletin. When you walk in, the ushers, they give you the bullet. All that information's there, right? So nobody's gonna. You don't build your church website for your congregation. You build your church website for your future congregation. You build your church website for the people that are the new family that just came to town and that says, hey, I'm looking for a place to go. What does your church look like? So and so often, you would want to put on there, what is our statements of faith, what are our hours, what is our address, and those things have them front and center. And then somewhere in the back there, sure, if you want to have a calendar of events or birthdays or things for the congregation, but too often that's what's on the front. So now take that from the church and nonprofit, now take that into the business. Right? Mm-hmm. And so now you have these business owners who say, I want to tell all my customers that we do this and this and this and this and this and this and this, and you get these massive menu bars of, I think, David, you and I were talking about that a lot, about, when to use drop-downs and when not to use drop-downs, and look, you don't need all that stuff there. Find out what it is that your customers need. Don't build what you want to see on the website. Build what your customers need on the website. But anyway, that was the story that I wanted to tell, and I think it was
okay, Jason. So it sounds like you're telling us don't use your website to preach to the choir. We're already in the building.
Yeah. Nice.
Before we get off that topic, so something that we were talking about, a bunch of us were talking about, was the idea of the lurker. And I think what the idea of the lurker as it pertains to church websites is actually kind of interesting, because I bet you that the majority of the people that are going to that website are religious like me. I go to synagogue once, maybe twice a year. But that doesn't mean that I'm not curious about going to the synagogue to see what their calendar events are and everything else. I don't go every week where I would get the printout, but I would go to their website to look, because I am one of those people that never shows up. That doesn't mean it's not valuable, and I think that actually in speaking to not to your existing customers, but the lurkers who are not yet in there is actually it's got value to it, But you did then clarify and say, like, the parishioners that you want to have, the customers that you want to have in the future, and there are the people that do need that information and are looking for that information, but you never hear them because they don't walk in the door all the time.
I think. There's one other part to that. There are some churches that are very good at reaching out to community anyway. They go out, they do a lot of events, so attracting new people isn't their problem, but adding more value to being there, to retaining people, might be what they'd want to focus on. And therefore, yeah, it could be much more that the website was built for the congregation to show, look, this is the one you want to be. Look what we do for our congregation. But I think there it would be thinking of more events than just, you know, this is when this is on.
Here, I had one church that had just, you know, that one really great success story, right? And you wish it happened on every one, and unfortunately it doesn't. But for this one scenario, so the pastor, we started out with his church, and he was doing that. He was putting up bulletins and you know, when is the potlucks and when are people's birthdays and anniversaries and whatnot, right? And wasn't getting a lot of traction. Wasn't showing up in you know, Google Local. Wasn't showing up in SEO at all. You know, wasn't appearing on because there's a lot of, you know, small town Michigan. You get, you know, there's more churches than there are bars, so it's pretty hard to rank. Anyway. So we changed that around a little bit, and Pastor started putting up really short sermonettes. You know, he took his sermons and he wrote them out as a blog post, and then he would video them, and so now he's creating content, right? And then we started seeing him appear more and more on page 1 of Google, and he was all getting very excited. Well, what's really cool about that is this one woman who called the church one day, and she said, you know, I've been following your church online for quite a while now, and I feel like I'm a member of your church, but I don't want to actually come to church. I don't like people. But I just want, it was just, you know, we're laughing about this. And she says, but I've been going to church for so long, and I read and I watched one of your sermons about tithing, and I feel that since I'm a part of your church, now I would like to tithe to your church. So here we have a person that was a member of the congregation, though they weren't a member of the congregation, who found it because the website was done in such a way where it could be found, it was accessible, it reached out beyond the 4 walls of the building. And then this person then went on to get some consulting with Pastor and whatnot, and was a part of the church, even though they never came to the building.
I'm sorry,
that
Jason.
Illustrates a failure I've seen on a lot of websites that do things like make announcements of events, like conference websites, but they never go back to those announcement pages and put up photographs of people at the events. Or share a commentary about what happened.
Yeah,
and you
link
want
to the reviews
of those things to create interest in future conferences and let people see what happened, what they missed out on.
Yeah, have a conversation.
Yeah,
have a conversation. You know, talk
years
to
ago.
them. I really like your. That's okay. I really like, Jason, that story in the general sense for small businesses, because it really talks about how you engage with people out there, regardless of whether they're going to be your customer or not, and all that adds up because customers come from just people knowing you and their friends and their people they talk to, and you just don't know where they're going to come from, so you have to talk to that larger audience of people that are going to follow you and be interested in you. And that's what a website needs to do. You know, it needs to have that conversation. I really like that, and I know I got through last night listening to Ammon's and Vin's second session, and really like that. And they were talking about, you know, how the conversation speaks to the website design, and I thought that was great. I really feel that that's where things need to go, and somehow need to get that story across to the people that are building their websites, so that they start doing that more.
So we're coming towards the end of the show, so what I'm going to do is quickly bring this all back together, and the common theme we've had today, believe it or not, is community, because we started off with Terry talking about community and Bill, of course, talking about the meetup, which is a chance to get together with people and connect with the community. We're talking about a church, which of course is a community activity. And we need to understand that so much of the web is about online community, that markets are conversations, as the Clue Train Manifesto clearly put it, and is absolutely true. So everything we're doing is about building up some kind of community, whether it's a community of buyers or a community of users. And everything we can do to empower that community is going to do us good in the long run. So let's have some closing thoughts from everybody. We've got quite a big panel, so I think we better start that now. Bill, you go first.
Okay, so I want to mention how good of a time I had at the Oceanside Chamber of Commerce last week when I stopped in at John's meetup and was joined by a number of people here in this meetup while they were being broadcast from around the world. It was nice being part of that community. And I think John maybe scanned the audience with cameras to show you all who was there, but referred to me as a disembodied voice a few times when I left comments, which left me wondering whether or not he was using those outward-pointing cameras or not. You know, some of the people did seem a little bit hesitant about asking questions who were in the meetup and about joining in. Yeah, I don't know if it was a matter of intimidation because you had some great guests, or if they felt like they maybe weren't included. And there were a couple people who later added on, it was good to see you type messages, and I was wondering, who are these people? I didn't see them. So why are they saying that? And it seems like those were some people who were members of the meetup who couldn't make it that day. So, you know, that's one of the reasons why I'm looking at John's setup for the combination Hangout meetup to learn how to broadcast a meetup so that a lot more people can participate from further distances. I think that's a good opportunity. And I'd like to be doing it.
Cool. Terry?
Oh, you know, what am I doing this week? Well, same as I do every week, chaos and havoc, you know, everywhere I go.
Yeah.
But just working on websites, you know, make the internet better one site at a time.
I like that. Good mission.
Absolutely. Kristin's vanished for a minute. Mary?
I just want to thank John for last week's Hangout. I thought one of the things that I wish Kristin was here too. One of the things I think people don't understand how hard it is to make something like that flow so well technically. I mean, like, I felt like there was a lot of moving pieces, and he did a great job just keeping the conversation going and keeping all the technology going, and the comments were flying, and people were answering the comments, and all of it just seemed seamless to me, which made it really great for the panelists. Everybody was just relaxed and having a good time. So I just want to give kudos to John and Gina and Marilyn. And I also just want to thank everybody again, because now I'm in this community, right? And I know some of you, but I don't know all of you, but I get to know all of you better. And that's been a great gift. So thanks.
Pleasure. Mike?
You know, just a quick thought. Last week I was, when I was going on John's Hangout, which I really appreciate being invited to, it was great. My wife said, "What is all these Hangouts you're doing, and why are you doing them?" And I really had to think about that for a minute, because, you know, I'm kind of an anti-Hangout social type of guy, for obvious reasons. But the reason is because you guys are so smart. I mean, it's a pleasure to be around such great intelligence on these items. So even though I come off as, you know, being funny maybe, I really do appreciate the insights I get from these, and just to sit here with all of you is amazing, with the exception of Weezer. But thank you.
Yeah, there are certainly a lot of smart people on these Hangouts, and me. So that's where it goes. John?
Yes, well, as far as the hangout, I was just really thrilled with everybody that was there and the conversation. It was really kind of a dream come true that I've been working on for a long time. So it was great. I've been wanting to pull the conversation back to the small business and the struggles they have with their website, and I was thrilled to be able to do that. So it was a privilege.
Cool. Kristin, you seem to be back. Can I unmute and tell us what you're up to?
Yeah, I did want to, but I was doing a screen snap and you caught me.
I thought you'd run out of energy for a minute.
No, never. No. Yeah, I'm doing more of that stuff that Terry was talking about, making the internet better.
One post, one share, one like at a time. Yep.
One private chat, all that good stuff.
David.
Yes.
What are you up to in the next week? And any questions?
Oh, I'm just trying to keep my head down and keep busy, but at the same time, I'm trying to find more people to interact with. I feel like I was posting this earlier today. I feel like it's getting a little stale, a little stagnating, and at the same time, so much of, I think, my personal growth over the last year has been finding people to really interact with and learn from and play off of, and who have been pushing me to think of things differently. And I feel like I need more of that. So, I mean, yes, it's community, but it's also, I need more input from more people, more, I'm not going to say more of an adventure, but definitely, I want to get some new opinions, some new voices, giving me something next to go towards. I feel like all of us need that. I feel like we all get stuck in our heads for so long that it's looking for new people always gives more value. I feel bad. I keep on pinging Bill into posts because somehow I've latched onto Bill recently. Or I feel like every once in a while, like someone says, we all get into little, not ruts, but we get into a stream of things, and finding people that are on a 3-post stream of something, and then being able to play off of it and take our own spin on something and gives insight to someone else who then takes it their own direction. We all need more of that in our lives, and I don't feel like I feel like I'm not the only one looking for that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'm going to give Jason the last word, but I'll just jump in on that. And Bill and I were involved in building a community once upon a time, and the way we did that was we had interesting conversations between ourselves. I'm getting some terrible echo at the moment. The word has got the speakers mute. It was one of those things where there were about 5 or 6 of us that had conversations. And do you know what? We enjoyed having conversations. Who can't enjoy having a conversation with Bill? And there was Kim Krause, and there was Adrian, and there was Mick, who was a developer, and there were people into graphics. And, it was an interesting but small group.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're having good conversations, it attracts more of the same. So sometimes instead of going out seeking new people, have public conversations with the people you already get on with, and it will attract more like them and bring in other opinions. And I think sometimes that's the best way. I think sometimes we kind of pull back from the big stream and retreat into private communities, and that then becomes, a loop.
Adrian Lee from those days at Creative Site Forum, the early days when we had those conversations, tweeted me this week. He asked me the type of questions you asked back then. And I came up with like 5 tweets in answer. And it made me feel like I was using Twitter the right way. I was being social and being helpful. It's I don't see enough conversations like that on Twitter, I think.
Well, I think Twitter is so much one way. I mean, even if it doesn't matter who you follow anymore on Twitter, I feel like it's broadcast. You know, so much of social media. Maybe it's because everyone's getting a little overwhelmed with their social media, but I feel like a lot of the conversations have gone away, and really and truly people are just maybe popping in for 5 minutes, and the rest is just broadcasting. That they're actually not looking for conversation. You know, they say they are, their engagement and authenticity. All they really want is someone to listen to them while they're staying on their soapbox, and that's about it.
I had somebody ask me a question about a blog post I recently wrote. And it was a great question, because they observed in Google that blog posts were getting site links. And Google had come out with a new patent involving site links. And it used to be that only home pages would get site links. And yet what they observed was that a blog post from a site got site links on it. And under the new patents, it's quite possible that was the focus. That was Google's aim. And now I've got to look at those again and see if I can get some of those to happen and add something to that blog post I wrote about. See if I can replicate his result. Because it's really interesting, the fact that Google might show other site links for other pages on a website instead of just the home page.
Cool. Jason, jump in before we go down another rabbit hole.
Well, I'm really bummed out that I missed this entire conversation. I had so much fun on John's hangout the other day. We've got a massive site that we're launching this week, and I'm so excited. We've been on this project for about a year now. We've pushed WordPress beyond the limits of, which is why I wish you and I, Ammon, had a chance to kind of have that discussion. Maybe we can do it again sometime. Where on the other thread you mentioned that HTML, strict HTML versus WordPress. Maybe we'll have that discussion sometime. But had a great time watching that. It was a lot of fun to be able to just kind of take a break and step away from this big monster that I've been working on for a while and just actually sit in and watch a hangout and just be like, and enjoy a cup of coffee. I just haven't done it in a long time. I haven't, like David's saying, go out and meet new people. Man, I miss it. I really... we work so hard in social media so that we can get to a certain place where we can have this nice clientele, and when you make it there, and I don't mean to say that I've entirely made it, but we've been very fortunate with a client base, so much so now that we're too busy to be able to go back and be in the streams. It's another topic for another time, but right now I just feel so fortunate to have this great project to work on, but man, do I miss the streams a lot. I sure do miss going in and hanging out and chatting with people. So, thanks a lot anyway. It's been fun to be on an HOA. Thanks for having me, Ammon.
Well, I've got a feeling we'll carry on a conversation for a while in the green room. But thanks everyone for joining us. I know we've gone a bit over, but yeah, you're used to us by now. Take care, everyone. See you next week.
Thanks, everybody.